1.
Contact.
Hey there, listeners. Welcome to another episode of the podcast of Record. Sorry we missed you last week. There was a lot going on, but we have a sweet new video set up. So for those of you that don't just want to listen to us in your podcast app of choice, you can check out our smiling faces or Joe blankly staring at his computer screen by tuning into the video feed, which will be where Producer Kyle's going to be up on YouTube. It'll be up maybe on Facebook as well. So if you want to check out the video feed instead of just the audio, you can do that.
Well, wait, where will it be at?
I just said.
You said maybe.
No, Producer Kyle confirmed.
Yes, it will be on YouTube at Of Record, and then we'll also be posting some clips from the podcast over the next week or two, depending on if they say anything worthwhile. So
Cool.
I mean,
I
that
think
is
this
a big
YouTube thing's really
dependency.
going to be a big deal.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, I think YouTube is going to be around.
Well, we should have gotten YouTube to come down and film us then.
How do we get YouTube into the
I mean,
studio?
that's a joke from The Office.
Yeah.
Remember, Michael's like, oh, we need to get YouTube to come down and film this.
How do we get on YouTube?
So we've got we actually have a lot of stories. We're going to try to get through 4 or 5 stories today while
It's
still
your
staying
digital
on
blitz.
time, Producer Kyle, but we've got a little bit of shorter ones. But we're going to start off talking today about a big deal in the marketing and advertising world, which started as an announcement back in August, but Google has said that for Google Chrome, which is important, right? Half the internet users in the world essentially are using Google Chrome as their primary internet browser, that they are going to effectively eliminate the use of third-party cookies, which creates a huge problem for the marketing and advertising industry in terms of tracking behavior and identifying retargeting.
Matthew, just tell us how a cookie works, basically.
So a cookie is just a little snippet of code or language that gets temporarily put on your computer when you visit a website or when you click on something or when you take certain actions. So if you ever had the creepy internet ads that follow you around for the Amazon product that you just visited, and now you see this, sweet phone case follow you around the internet for the next
Hot Baby
7
Yoda
days.
case.
Hot Baby Yoda case. I don't even get that on Amazon. I got mine at Disney, at the theme park.
On, bro.
But anyways, that's a cookie. So that's a cookie that got delivered, whether it's on your computer, whether it's on your phone. A big deal a few years ago was when cookies started to get really smart cross-device. So cookies knew that you were the same person from your phone to your computer to your tablet or to multiple computers.
Thanks largely to people using the same browser product cross devices.
A lot of times, yep. But so anyways, this is a little snippet of code that goes on your computer that can track what products you viewed, or if you put something in your cart and then left it there, what your behavior is like around the internet. But anything even down to Google Analytics, right? So
Yep.
if you manage a website, you probably have Google Analytics installed. It's the primary way to tell who's visiting your site and from where. That's essentially a cookie as well. You're putting a little
Now,
tracking pixel on there to determine how someone got to your website, how long they stayed, where they went afterwards,
and
and what their
Google's not
behavior was.
saying you can't use cookies anymore. It's saying you can't use third-party cookies because one of the pieces of this cookie market is you could trade them, right? You could trade essentially vaults of these audience cookies between companies, and there were, whole, sizable companies that exist where you could broker these cookie listings. So, I could buy from, Matt's Food Mart a list of all of the people who visited his website and looked at ham sandwiches, and then I could buy that list from a broker and then use it to remarket to people to buy turkey subs.
You could buy the list, or what's more commonly done is I
I
would just share access
yeah.
with you, so you don't actually know who my customers are, but you can still advertise to my customers in the aggregate.
Yeah. So Google is effectively shutting down this brokering of cookies with the third party, because as I read this, Google is still going to let you retarget, but only through the Google Ads platform.
Yeah, and that's the criticism that Google's getting
Yeah.
from a lot of this, is that
It's not that they're not
secretly-
collecting the
yeah,
data.
it's just a
They're just
push
not
to get
sharing the data anymore.
Yeah, it's just a push to get everyone to only use
Google Ads.
Google Ad products. Now, the interesting thing about Google Ad products is you have the ability to add other tracking cookies and pixels through the Google Tag Manager, which is a widely used and adopted practice. So you can not only add something like a Google Analytics tag, but through Tag Manager, you can add a Facebook pixel. You can add Amazon retargeting pixels. So there's already a lot of ways that Google gets to capture information from other ad platforms as it is.
Yeah.
The criticism here being that they're just
Not going to give it back.
well, and that they're just looking for a way to force everyone
Yeah.
to do that. And look, this is one of the power plays you get to make when you give away so many things for free and convince a huge number
Yeah.
of people to use your platform or your product.
This is also something that wouldn't have happened under the culture of Google with the founders still in play. Now, both the founders have largely stepped away except for positions on the board, but this is...
I don't know that I agree with that.
You don't think so?
Because Google is still doing this under the don't be evil mantra, right? They're doing it under privacy concerns. And I mean,
Yeah.
in reality, there's some other things going on behind the scenes like we just talked about, but they're able to do it under the banner of
They never couldn't
protecting
have gotten
users'
away
privacy.
with it 2 or 3 years ago.
Perhaps.
If they did this 2 or 3 years ago, this would be seen as a monopolistic move, not as a privacy move.
The market has, largely not responded negatively to them for this, right? Like, even though they're doing it this way, they hit their $1 trillion valuation.
Well, as a
the
Google
other day.
shareholder, this is great.
Sure.
For any other advertiser,
Well, there's no other browser or no other company out there that has the brand power
yeah,
to push
or
people off
market
of
share.
to push people off of Google Chrome and
Yeah.
to go somewhere else. So
Yeah.
it's not like they're just going to start losing users, and no one's necessarily picking a browser based on trying to get a maximum
Yeah.
ad
I
load.
mean, look, what doesn't escape me is this is an incredibly cutthroat business choice made under the guise of privacy.
Sure.
There is not less data being collected as a result of this. It's
Correct,
just that
yeah.
all the data is being held and collected by one company that holds it in a black box.
And tells you that their ethics on what they do with the
You
data
should trust them.
are better
Yeah,
than
than
their
what was going on
competitors in the
elsewhere.
industry. Right.
Yeah. So that, does this affect the broader advertising industry significantly?
So,
No,
I mean,
probably not, because most ad dollars are already being spent on.
Something you brought up in my office a couple minutes ago, which I think is a question that bears asking, is who is challenging this, right? Like, who is pushing back on behalf of the advertising industry or the marketing industry against Google or against someone that's taking steps to limit the abilities of a multi-billion-dollar industry?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and I don't know the answer to that. I mean, there's a couple of different trade associations in the space.
So-
I don't know that any of them are taking the lead
I
here.
mean, this is my criticism of the way big tech is handling getting that moniker big thrown in front of it, right? Like, big tech is now in the place of like big oil and big finance and big ag, and it's in
Big
the big
tobacco.
business, big tobacco. And it's not handling that situation very well. One of the problems it's having is it's not engaging in the behaviors to defend its business model very well from the government effectively. So what it is doing is there's a lot of internal tech world like sniping and shot taking. So Jack Dorsey says Twitter's not doing political ads, so he can throw Mark Zuckerberg under the bus. Google's
when in reality, Twitter just wasn't making money on
yeah.
political
And by the way, their
ads.
policy is extremely broad in what it will allow. Google's not going to do cookies, so it can throw, competitors under the bus, mostly Facebook or anybody on privacy, while
Right.
not really improving consumer privacy to any significant way. So instead of working as an
Has
industry...
anyone successfully improved consumer privacy in the past few
No,
years?
because consumers don't really want it.
Right.
They don't care.
Yeah.
If they did, they
Is there
would use...
anyone, though, that has made a legitimate effort to do it and has succeeded?
I mean, trial lawyers in California got
Okay,
the
Fair
California
enough.
Privacy
Yeah. I mean, European.
passed.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
but this is my point, right? The biggest industry in the history of the planet should be better at defending its business model than it is. They've been functionally failing for 4 years to defend their business model, despite having billions of dollars to leverage politically.
why do you think that is?
And they got beat in their home state. Imagine that.
I mean, they've
They're
been beat virtually everywhere. I mean, they got spanked in Europe.
yeah.
I mean,
I was actually speaking in front of a room of government affairs tech people last week, and one of the things that came up is not only is the industry fairly young, right? You're talking about an industry
Sure.
that's, 20 years old, 15 years old. So it hasn't had as much time to organize and mature yet, and it's been pushed into this big business
Or even
space
where
fast.
it's older. The older demographics are made up of early adopters or
Yeah.
people that are extremely interested in emerging ideas.
Yeah. But the biggest reason the companies feel like they can't be aggressive in defending their business model is their workforces get really antsy if they engage in politics in a significant way. Because it's that Silicon Valley, extremely progressive culture.
I don't know if I believe that that's a legitimate excuse, right? Because all of those people would be perfectly fine if those companies were engaging with progressive policies, and in fact have been widely supportive of all those companies engaging in politics when it serves what they feel is a progressive agenda.
Yeah, but they're
right?
even
Otherwise, these
divided on
companies
what's
would be
progressive enough.
But these companies would be staying out of gender politics
Yeah.
and reproductive politics and everything else if employees actually
But-
had just a
But
distaste
I would argue
for
this is
companies
a
in
fundamental
politics.
flaw baked into the Silicon Valley company, foundation. Is you built these companies telling people that these companies had this grand moral vision of what they wanted to
That
do
is
in the world.
unparalleled in the history
That's unparalleled
of
in the history of the world.
mankind.
Well, here we are in 2020, and guess what? Their businesses, like any other business, they're publicly
Hey,
traded.
they're all publicly
they have
traded
to make
businesses,
money.
yeah.
They're in now a very competitive regulatory market, and they have to defend themselves. But instead of defending themselves adequately, they're negotiating away their business model to try and relieve the pressure.
Exactly.
So they're giving up, oh, we'll self-regulate on finance ads. We'll self-regulate on real estate ads. We'll self-regulate on political ads. We'll self-regulate on cookies. What they're doing in this self-regulation is they are making their platforms less valuable to the end user. Instead of activating the end user, so every small business in America who buys Facebook ads or Google search ads, and letting them know through a third-party group that, hey, your ability to buy this type of ad may be in trouble. Tell your congressman, tell your state legislature, this sort of advertising is good for the little guy. They go to Congress.
So like the way you make your living.
Yeah, and not just an agency like us. I literally mean like the bakery down the street that spends $200
Right.
in Facebook ads a month. Instead of defending that business model the way every other business does until you're forced into a corner, they're just handing it off. And they're taking this big advantage they have in the market for granted. But what they're doing the whole time is just devaluing their business, seemingly voluntarily. Or they're doing it out of like ego competition with one another.
But I mean, there's no real evidence to even suggest that this self-regulation is preventing government
pressure.
regulation, right?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't work in the finance sector.
Mhm.
They tried to self-regulate in the finance sector. They still got sued. They still lost. They still had to come up with a set of government-approved rules and regulations
Yeah.
for credit and housing and other types of advertising to ensure there was no discrimination.
Yeah.
So the self-regulation stuff hasn't historically worked super well for them.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what they keep going back to. And it's not they're not spending money on lobbying. They spend a lot of money on lobbying. Like, I don't know where their campaign finance is on this side of things for regulation, but they are not as aggressive in the game as they should be with the type of cash flows they have and the type of issues they have. And they're not really that organized.
I think something that has been interesting about Silicon Valley companies in the past, I don't know, let's say 15 years compared to widely successful businesses in the past is in that same mindset, like founders in particular, founders and executives have decided to some degree that they don't need to play the game of politics, right? That it's sufficient to just hire corporate lobbyists, but that, politicians or influencers should be coming to them, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much the opposite of what we've seen throughout much of the last 100 years in terms of business influence.
It works when you're the innovation, the beating heart of American business. It works when you're that. When you turn the corner, it's like that Batman quote, right? Like if you either die a hero, you live long enough to be
see yourself become
yeah,
the villain.
whatever it is, right? That's what happens to business. Like you grow. You're a hero. You're celebrated. It's amazing. Wow, this is a new era in business. And then you get big enough and you hit this inflection point where, hey, you're big business now.
Look, man, it's the same thing with the market, right? Like that CEO is a hero as long as that stock price keeps growing up. as soon as it drops,
thing,
like that guy's gone.
I don't think they fundamentally recognize that they can't play that we're the hero game anymore. They have to wear the black hat now. At least, the CEO doesn't wear the black hat.
The thing is,
but
sometimes, though, they still get to play it, and I think it tricks everybody in the industry to think that it's still a way to do it, right? Like, Donald Trump still goes out and, like, tours the Apple assembly factory in Texas, and Tim Cook, like, gives them a tour, and, like, they still get to play that a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's enough to tease them into believing that
they can still be the
that
good
is
guy
working.
again.
Yeah.
If they just admit their problems and, fess up to it and change that, the pressure will go away.
Yeah. All right.
Pressure's not going away.
So let's move on to the next story. Let's talk about what you're going to be wearing in the next couple months.
So when I was on the Amazon store, not the literal Amazon store, like the website, this weekend, I saw that introducing Echo Frames never miss a moment with Alexa. So you can buy.
I'm confident Alexa never will miss a moment if I'm wearing her in my glasses around.
So I can now
She'll
buy
see everything.
$179.99 pair of frames for 5 monthly payments of $36.
What is this, QVC now?
To have Amazon literally in my head.
Put it on Flex Pay.
In the Amazon glasses have little speakers built in that only you can hear, and so you can talk back and forth with Alexa.
Yeah, we've
on
had
your
that technology for a while. It's called headphones.
And Google a couple weeks ago did release their version of AirPods, Alexa Pods, or do you guys know what they're called? Alexa Pods?
Google or Amazon?
Amazon.
They're called Alexa Buds.
Alexa Buds.
Yeah.
And so now you can have Alexa just plugged in all parts of your head.
No, they're called Echo Buds.
Oh, Echo Buds. It's always hard to know. When do they go with an Echo?
No,
when do
they
go with an
never
Alexa?
name anything Alexa.
Yeah, that's true. Never products.
But you called the damn thing Alexa.
I understand, but they
That's
name
the dumbest
everything
branding
Echo.
I've ever heard.
I'm just saying, like, they don't. I mean, Siri is just Siri, right?
Because
But
they're Echo Frames too and Echo Buds.
Yeah. everything is named Echo. Always.
So quick poll of the room: who is interested in wearing Echo Frames? Matt, Echo Frames or no
Nope.
frames? Kyle,
Nope.
Max, no.
Yeah.
Fun experiment, guys.
But I'm also not interested in Echo Buds. What I am interested in is Alexa integrating directly into my AirPods.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where we're going.
Yeah,
are
like
the
that's what I care about.
smaller versions of AirPods that are always on, and we just always talk about them. So I
mean,
think
I'm good with the new AirPods Pro. The size is perfect. Like, they are tiny. They
Yeah.
are noise canceling. The seal is great. Like, they have invented about as good
hardware.
of a portable, like, headphone solution as is going to exist right now, that I can still, like, have people hear me and the microphone pick up without, a bone mic.
Yeah, and that is the I think where wearables are going is this in-ear always-on experience. So I think the glasses are a little bit of fun throw
The
shit.
new
that we'll see
AirPods
what
Pro
sticks.
are as close to an immersive experience you're going to get in that space as exists right now.
No, you can double press the button to disconnect the microphone. I bet you can.
Yeah.
This is right. I saw a story.
Alexa, stop spying on me.
I saw a story where an Amazon executive was kind of haranguing a Facebook executive about privacy at a conference in Spain last week. I was like, well, that's rich.
Yeah.
You have a wiretap that sits on my kitchen counter.
If anything, Facebook's had
Yeah.
trouble selling its
Yeah,
wiretap.
Facebook can't
no
sell its
one's,
wiretap.
No one's buying the Facebook
Yeah.
portal.
Okay, so I think that's the news on wearables.
Well, I mean, so this kind of segues into our next topic, though, which is device time. So, I mean, we're talking about taking the device from your glasses or
Yeah.
out of your ears.
all right, so this is
go ahead.
another idea of like, we're going to be the good guy and we're going to give the consumer control back. So 2
or
years
by,
ago,
by helping awareness, it's going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
decrease consumption.
So 2 years ago, Apple and some of the other platforms make a big deal. They roll out these new reports you get on your device time, right? This is how much time you spent on your device. This is if it's up or down from the last week. Kyle, Max, do you think empowering consumers with this information cause them to decrease, increase, or stay the same in terms of device time? Because now they can see this is how long I've spent every week.
I mean, mine would be stay the same.
It went up slightly.
Oh, okay.
Was
I mean, there's no evidence that seeing it caused it to increase. But
Yeah.
it still went up even with
Well, people saw it as
more
a challenge.
awareness.
Like they
Yeah.
gamified
Like,
time
oh, man,
on
I only
device.
spent 3.5
Yeah.
hours. Let's get to 4.
Yeah, I can do better. Bring it, Apple. I mean, I just think it's this one of the things they built in to make, pundits in the media happy, but no one was asking for it. No one was like, man, I really wish I knew how many hours I was on.
Oh, I mean, it
Instagram
was
this
something
week.
they could talk about on the in the keynote on
Yeah.
the stage, and like, oh, Apple is doing something responsible.
Yeah.
Like, meanwhile, your toddler's sitting at Olive Garden just watching 3 hours
Yeah.
of Daniel Tiger
Plugging away.
non-stop, like just tapping away.
So then when you get there, probably, oh, that's not me.
Like, oh yeah, I didn't use all that time.
That's a little Braxton
That
with an X. Braxton.
with 2 X's.
2 X's. I mean, just another more ways to make fun
Well,
of tech. for not-
prediction. I mean, is device time going to level out now? Do you
Yes.
think it still goes up?
Yeah, I think the audio part levels it out because instead of pulling out the phone to do basic stuff, you'll just make the audio request and
Mhm.
transact like that. So I think you're seeing you'll still have slight
Well,
increases.
so
but you're gonna
here's
have
a good
leveling.
question then. Should audio time in that context be counted as device time? Sure. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
not screen time because you're not staring at a screen, but I mean, that's device
Well,
time.
that's an interesting question. I actually struggle with. So sometimes I'll like get annoyed with my wife because she's just on the phone. I'm like, why are you on your phone? Like,
We'll bleep
you're-
this
you're
out
on
so
your phone.
Sarah doesn't
She
get
knows,
even
she
more
knows.
mad at you.
and she'll look at me and she'll be like, well, you're always listening to podcasts.
You are always listening
Yeah,
to
I am
podcasts.
always listening to
Sometimes you're
podcasts.
making podcasts.
And I haven't figured out how to formulate my argument that audio is in some way fundamentally different to screen consumption. Am I right or am I wrong? I
I think
actually,
it depends on what you're talking about, like in the merits. Like for your wife in that context, like you are distracted by something else, so it is virtually the same thing,
Yeah.
right? It is completely indifferent. If you're talking about like blue light keeping you awake at night, if you are talking about, actual like eye strain from screen
Yeah.
time, then there is probably
I-
a legitimate argument
my
to be made.
perception is from when I just glance and see what she's like looking on the couch, that this is time she's spending that like she has like other things she could do for like entertainment that are higher value.
Yeah,
It just
so-
seems like the lowest barrier entertainment.
We do know this about audio consumption. We know that listening to audio books and we know that listening to podcasts looks a lot more like reading in terms of how your brain is responding to it
yeah,
than it looks like
TV viewing
TV
or social
video
media.
viewing, right? So from that angle, we know that your brain is responding probably much better to that content than it is by sitting and staring
So,
at YouTube videos or watching a
Just like
Netflix show.
cognitively, I feel more present when I'm engaged with audio. When I'm looking at like an Instagram feed, I feel like somebody paused my avatar and I'm just sitting, just staring blankly.
Yeah, and I think
like,
part of that is conscious decision versus unconscious decision, right? Like with your audio consumption, you
Yeah.
are consciously choosing what you want to listen to.
you're also still aware of the environment.
right.
You're on the screen, like your world is right in front of your face.
Well, look, you can listen to a podcast or an audiobook and still functionally drive your car. You
Yeah.
cannot watch a video and
True.
still functionally operate your vehicle.
Well, look, I'm incredibly biased because I love audio, but I think one of the reasons I love audio is it strands this border of like being immersed and focused, but
Mhm.
still being present with what you're doing.
Yeah.
I could be wrong there. Who knows?
Producer Kyle, how are we doing on time?
We are at 22 minutes.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about the big game. Let's talk about the Super Bowl.
So far,
We know who's going to be in the Super Bowl now.
the big news in the Super Bowl is that both Donald Trump and Michael Bloomberg have bought ads. Trump's ad is first half, Bloomberg's ad is halftime, and all the advertisers have taken their ads out of the blocks with those contents. So Fox
And
has
Bloomberg
bought,
has straight up said that one of the only reasons he bought airtime was just to irritate Donald Trump so that he has one too. I mean,
Do you
has
think-
been straight
yeah.
up about that.
Man, I tell you what I wouldn't give to be Michael Bloomberg's consultants. First, I don't know how you're going to sell a billionaire to the Democratic base, but man, I bet those invoices get paid quickly.
I bet they
like,
do too.
A guy that's got money just to throw at Super Bowl ads
don't-
just to be annoying.
You don't get to take
want- yeah.
a net 30 on those invoices, right?
Yeah.
Like, man, I know you got it.
yeah, I
just
mean,
give it up.
You wanted to buy a Super Bowl ad just to be annoying.
Yeah.
Like, I need some of that in my business life.
Yeah, Tom Steyer and Michael Bloomberg probably don't get the
Man,
luxury
Tom
of net
Steyer and
30
Michael
on their stuff.
Bloomberg are just pissing money into the wind at an incredible rate. You can see every week when like the story is written about. How
Look,
much
if you're
people are
Tom
spending.
Steyer, you've already committed to give away your fortune when you die, 99% of it or whatever. Who cares if you piss it away now?
Good point, but dude, this is just sadness for the generation we live in. I feel like the industrial titans of the good old days and like the turn of the century, they were spending their money like on universities and libraries and like
Getting stuff
something
named
tangible,
after
getting
them.
stuff named bridges. Like these guys right now are buying TV ads, on second tier NFL games. I mean, the Super Bowl is the second tier, but they were buying it over the course of the
looking
season.
at the two billionaires in the Democratic primary, if it makes sense for either one of them, it probably makes more sense for Bloomberg, right? I mean, literally Bloomberg's investment, his fortunes, like all of it pretty much is tied into media in some form at this point. So, he's bought all in on that. Tom Steyer is a little bit different.
But I think the interesting part is the advertisers didn't want their ads even around those ads.
Yeah.
So Fox is just using all
out
that
of any
inventory
time
for
of
their
the year, the
commercials.
Super Bowl is associated with humor and
Yeah.
like, oh, we don't have to think about this for a couple of hours. So, I mean, if I were Doritos or Budweiser or Coca-Cola, like I wouldn't want to be the lead-in to Donald Trump or the exit from Michael Bloomberg.
I think they are way overestimating that anybody is paying that much attention. I mean, maybe we live in such a crazy world where, like, did you see Pepsi had the ad before Trump?
I mean, we're talking about literally the 1 4-hour period of the year, though, where journalists and analysts and everyone else are going to look specifically at the ads and write summaries about those ads. And in some cases, we're talking about ads that will be aired one time and never aired again.
But this idea, this fear that just being adjacent to something makes you complicit in that thing is ridiculous.
I gotta be honest, I understand it a little bit with Donald Trump, maybe not so much with
Michael
Bloomberg, but who the hell knows what Donald Trump is going to say? And you don't want to be the person that came in right before Trump tried to make a point.
Fox gets to approve the ad.
I mean, my point isn't that like he's going to say something offensive. My point is that he's going to say something outrageous either way.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the guy that advertised right before Donald Trump got on screen. Yeah. Like he's going to go all out on Colin Kaepernick for a nice tie into last time's episode. Like he's going to do something outrageous regardless of whether you agree with it or not. So who wants to be Doritos coming in right before Donald Trump and no matter how good an ad you come up with, Donald Trump is coming in guns blazing. Look,
why doesn't that apply just for advertising in the same game or in the commercial break before, or in the commercial break after?
I mean, maybe
or in
it
like
should.
the welcome back screen to the game when it's like the Super Bowl.
Positioning in the ad market actually is important. I mean, the same way as on a supermarket shelf, like where you are on the shelf, like how much you're paying for a spot. A lot of times is determined by where that spot is in the rotation.
I'm just going to assume that every advertiser in the Super Bowl supports both Trump and Bloomberg because they're advertising on the same game.
That's a great assumption and one
Guilt
that
by
is,
association.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense in the 2020
what's the next story?
media
Bernie has no
landscape.
apps.
No, Bernie has no apps was not one of the stories we were planning on talking
about. Oh, I know.
About.
This is the closer. It's the Instagram
the
meme fact-checking.
Yeah.
So in late December, Instagram...
But Bernie has no apps on his phone.
So he would not know about the meme fact-checking.
He's not supporting the billionaires by putting the apps on his phone. The billionaires want the apps on your telephone to tell you what you're doing or to sell you underwear. The billionaires got 3-4 pairs of underwear.
That's like a 4-year-old SNL reference that most of the audience probably won't get.
Well, that's sad for them.
So Facebook in late December released a feature that allowed for content to be marked as factually inaccurate.
Because this feature has been floating around for randomly selected stuff for 2.5 years.
In different formats.
Yeah.
But what is different is they started putting a blur over
the enforcement of it.
The
is
blur,
different.
and you have to click to be see this anyway.
The same way they did it with violent or graphic content.
Yeah. And you're one of this fact check. But what they've also been applying this to are meme accounts. So Instagram is now fact checking memes from accounts you can trust for news like Shithead Steve, Dr. Greyfang, and Real Fake News.
Yeah.
So the problem is twofold. One is when they mark something as factually inaccurate, it suppresses it in the feed, so it gets less reach. But two is it undermines the entire concept of fact checking. Like it's like if you fact checked SNL, it's satire. It's
Well, it's
parody.
like if you
People know
fact
that.
checked The Onion,
Yeah, which they probably are.
right? Like how,
This did lead to
like
some,
like The Onion talking about Joe Biden getting there early to the State of the Union so he can set up the fog
yeah.
machine. Like, oh, we looked into this and discovered that Joe Biden did in fact not get
Set
to
up
the
the fog
State of
machine.
Union
And
early
it'll
to
be
set
like,
up
you know,
fog
the
machine.
Australian News Daily. It's always a
Yeah.
random company that has fact checked it, a random news agency. I mean, but the good thing is the meme accounts took full advantage and rolled out like a kind of a troll campaign based on it, where they would intentionally change. So what they would do is, the way this works, by the way, is it looks at images and its image recognition. If it finds that image of something that had been factually
Has
inaccurate,
been marked
it
as
passed.
yeah.
So they would use the same image, but change it to say something factual. So Facebook would mark it as inaccurate. I thought it was a good play. So
Joe just went on a tirade at like 10 o'clock at night after sending the
Yeah.
screenshot to me and Rebecca when he saw a meme account had been fact checked and just lost his mind.
it undermines the
waiting.
whole thing.
He's been waiting to talk about this topic on the podcast
years.
For 2 weeks. Well, for 2 weeks.
Years.
But
But I mean, to me, this brings in what is the inherent like ridiculousness of fact checking user generated content.
hi.
Hi.
that is the inherent ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Hi.
And it just undermines it. I mean, it's a joke. Like now, every time I see like this is factually inaccurate, I'm going, oh, this is amazing.
What is this,
say?
a meme?
You may as
Yeah.
well invite. It's like putting the viewer discretion is advised in front of the show. Like,
Yeah.
well, I know.
like,
I'm-
oh, if we put TV mature at the top left,
know I'm
people
sticking around.
people will turn it off if they're not supposed to watch that content.
nudity, violence. Like, I know I'm sticking around to see what happens in the next 30 seconds.
Obviously, Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
All right, we're probably about done on time, right, Kyle? All right. Anything else you want to pop in there before I take us out?
I don't think so. I hope someone fact checks our episodes.
I mean, our episodes only use the best facts.
I mean, facts that are.
Exclusively the greatest facts.
I can't argue with
All
that.
right.
They're the greatest facts.
Hope you
Also, very
enjoyed-
good opinions.
Hope you enjoyed our random
Fine
rants
opinions.
this week. As always, if you enjoyed the episode, jump in your podcast app of choice, give us a rating or review, or let us know what you'd like to hear more of or less of, like maybe less Joe rants on the show.
Yeah, that's a draw.
It is.
People are coming
It's
in
a
for that.
marketing
Yeah,
angle.
yeah,
People are
it's an
coming in.
angle,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, if
It's like a
if
segment.
that's why you listen,
What
is for
we
Joe's
need, we
rants,
need like
let
a
us know
music
that.
intro to it, like like a music intro to that segment.
That sounds like a 90s PBS news segment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
the joke.
gotcha. All right. With that,
Then I'm like, hot take.
we'll catch you next week with the latest on Joe's
Maybe that's
hot
it. It's like hot
takes.
take. And that's the little stinger.
All right. Thanks for joining us.